Welcome to Mitts Off, episode 14. Today we are joined by Detroit Red Wings defenseman and Hamilton native Ben Chiarot. For me, one of the toughest defensemen to play against in my career. We're going to get to some stuff in Montreal and their cup run, playing for Marty St. Louis, and our times playing against each other in Winnipeg and Edmonton. Some battles back in the day. Mitts Off is powered by Sports Interaction, your homegrown sportsbook, and our exclusive betting partner. Get in the action, download the app to get started, 19 plus. And as always, please play responsibly. Mitts Off, episode 14. This guy was a nightmare to play against with the Winnipeg Jets. Also starred with Montreal. Deadline deal with Florida. Detroit Red Wings now. Defenseman Ben Chiarot joining us. Benny, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited. Always have some time for a fellow OHLer. I used to terrorize the league.
Good OHL boy, man. You just got back from Sweden, dude. Let's start there. I would love to know about your experience in Sweden, how everything went, the travel and all that, like overall good experience for you.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you look back on your career to say I got to go to Helsinki a few years ago with the Winnipeg Jets, to go to Sweden now with Detroit. It's not really a country that you'd probably go see if you're just going on vacation. So to be able to go over there, see it and play some NHL hockey, it was a good experience.
I know you're a bit of a chef. I read your hobby is cooking and stuff like that. How's the food over there, dude? How was it?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. I feel like European food, no matter where you are, is pretty good. You know, they got their food situation pretty figured out there. So lots of good food, good laughs with the guys, get the whole team together for dinners every night. It was a lot of fun.
Let's talk about Detroit just for a little bit, get things going. Second year there now. You're probably enjoying it. Little Caesars is a rink I never got to play in. But obviously it's not becoming a pretty cool spot. It's an awesome place to play. And I kind of want to know just your experience so far with the Wings and how everything's been going there.
Yeah, you know what? I absolutely love it. Family loves it. It's undercover in that when guys come in on the road, you just stay right downtown, go to the rink, and you're right back out to the airport. But I mean, I think it's one of the best places to play in the league. The areas where we live in Bloomfield and Birmingham, and we have one of the nicest rinks in the league. The Red Wings uniforms, one of the nicest in the league. It's a great spot. I really love being here.
So we used to go to Traverse City. I got drafted by Dallas, and it was an 8-team prospect tournament up there. And I don't get starstruck too often, man, but when I saw Stevie Y walking through, that was like, for me, he just like oozed like this aura and personality. And I just remember like looking over and being like, wow, that is like a presence there. I kind of want to know about your experience with him. Obviously, you probably talked to him a lot when you decided to sign there, but do you meet and see him a lot around the rink? I kind of just want to know what he's like and your experiences with Stevie Y.
Yeah, he's everything you kind of hear about Steve Yzerman. It's just true. Like the presence that he has, works so hard too. I mean, doesn't miss a practice, doesn't miss a game. He's up there watching everything. He takes in everything, knows what's going on day to day. Really sharp guy, runs a tight ship. And obviously for guys who grew up, you know, when he was doing his thing with the Red Wings, it's like some of these young kids that are 20 years old and they're like, yeah, like they know, but they don't really never got to see what he was like, you know what I mean? And so it's cool. I mean, Steve Eisner, Nick Lidstrom's like our vice president, Chris Draper runs the draft, like all these like Red Wing legends and guys that we would have grown up watching. They're all around day to day. So it's a cool spot to be. And you just got like a wealth of knowledge around you with all these guys, starting with Steve. So you're never short for advice around the room.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of like thinking or wanting to ask is when they're kind of around the organization, I know you have your coaching staff, but do they give you like pointers or tips? Like would Liddy ever come down and talk to you about your game and like give you advice on things that he saw, you know, during a game or during the season?
I guess more so if you're seeking it out, because they're like, I mean, general manager, vice president, it's not like necessarily their job to come down and give you, advice on what you're doing. But I mean, I had a like cool conversation with Nick Lidstrom, just about walking the blue line. And, it's like every defenseman would probably like pay X amount of dollars to be able to talk to Nick Lidstrom about how he would walk the line and what he was thinking. And we get to do that here in Detroit. So it's pretty sweet. And I mean, just having them around the room, you can't beat it.
I want to go back, man. Anyone that I have on here that played in the Coast, I have to talk about the East Coast just because I feel like not a lot of people know about it, but my gosh, does it build some character for you? You played in a great spot out in the Rock in St. John's. Talk to me about the Coast, man. I kind of want to know what, how you ended up there with, like, what was the message getting sent down and how you dealt with all that.
Yeah, so when I turned pro, the year I was turning pro was the year Atlanta Thrashers, where I was drafted, moved to Winnipeg. So they kind of combined what was the Manitoba Moose and the Chicago Wolves Atlanta prospects into one American League team. And then I was just sort of this 20-year-old coming up. There wasn't a lot of room for me to play. So I get sent down. It was actually St. John's was the AHL team. Colorado was the East Coast League team. So I played a few games with St. John's and then like 20 games with Colorado. But it was an experience. Like our tough guy, the Penner brothers, there was a goalie and the forward who was the tough
Alex,
guy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he called himself Weapon X. And like he'd go and get in a fight and then he'd like throw up the X over his head. It was like WWE with like hockey, but it was you know what, the hockey, I had fun, I gotta say, playing hockey there. And they took good care of me, just being a young kid starting out. Nothing but good memories from there. Not necessarily where you want to be, but like I was in the shootout, like taking like 2 for 3 in the shootout. Anytime we go into a shootout now in the NHL, I'll like yell down the bench 2 for 3 in the East Coast League. Let the boys know what's going on. So I had a lot of good memories there, and kind of really got my career started there.
Yeah, man, that brings you to Winnipeg, right? And I think we were talking a lot off air about the team you had when you finally got up there. I watched your first NHL goal, which is an absolute snipe, by the way, far side, barn in. You're playing with Byfuglien, but as soon as you scored, the announcer was like, what a godsend this kid's been, eating 20 minutes a night, playing some really good hockey. I felt like when you got there, you really just grabbed the reins and started playing. But man, you were a nightmare to play against for me. Like one of those guys that going into the corners, going in front of the net, I knew it was going to be a battle. But that was just kind of the MO of your Winnipeg team at the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a big, especially those early years when I first started there, like, it was before, I'd say, like Wheeler and Scheifele had kind of found their groove together and had taken off. We weren't the most skilled team, but we were like a big, strong team. Thorburn, Peluso, Myers, Byfuglien, like we had big guys who could play hard. And I was just kind of right time, right place as far as getting in there. Guys get hurt and I go in and get paired with Buff, and I'm playing 20 minutes with Buff right out of the American League. I'm playing 20 minutes with Buff, in the NHL. That first goal was hockey night in Canada, playing against the Leafs. I'm a Hamilton boy, grew up watching the Leafs every Saturday night. Score that goal, and then the next morning I get a letter to get a place and that I'm staying in the NHL. So it was literally like the dream come true. That whole weekend. So. Fond memories of everything getting going there in Winnipeg for me.
I had a big smile there when you said the letter, the NHL letter, where they tell you to get your place. It's one of the best moments, the best days when you get that. But I did not have a smile when you just dropped Big Buff's name, because I still see him in my dreams when I try to sleep at night.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We talked about it a bit before, but man, it was one of the hardest I've ever been hit in my career. I got a suey pass from Mark Fane, and I should have seen him coming. He's one of those guys, man. I know you were D partners with him, but for me being a forward, like you got to be aware on the ice, especially when a guy like that's on it. But you were on the ice for it.
So I was on the ice for it, and I've seen that clip a few times. I'm number 63, like coming over to jump in the pile there because I knew you were down. I'm like, if Gazdic gets back up, like it's on here. So hopefully he's not getting up too fast. But he was scary, man. Not because he could, punch your head off, but if you get hit by him, it's like getting hit by a small car. I mean, he's a big guy in the NHL, 225, 230. Buff's 260, 265. He's a mountain of a man, and he can move. He's moving fast. And to throw another thing in there, he's completely unpredictable. Like the play will be going one way, and Buff will just decide to go skate the complete opposite, like head on traffic. Like I remember, the hit on you, but the hit on Mark Stone, where Mark Stone's going one way and Buff's just skating completely opposite direction, which you don't ever see. Scary guy. Like, I mean, you don't want to be going, you don't want to get caught in those tracks because you could be hurt bad. It's almost like taking like a Shea Weber slap shot. You're done for 2 months if you get hit by one of those.
He was so solid, man. Trying to take a run at him, like anything like that, he just bounced off him. That's interesting that you played, like you were his partner, played with him a lot early. I'm kind of wondering like what your mindset was early in your Winnipeg career when you're like thinking, I want to stay here, I want to be here, keep it simple kind of thing. I know that your game is shut down, but whether you're playing with Buff or you weren't, was it just being defensively responsible and you're like, this is what I'm going to have to do to kind of stay here and be a full-time NHLer?
That was all it was. And, he would tell me, he's like, kid, you want to stay here? Like, just give me the puck. And so anytime I'd get it, just slide it over, give it to him as much as possible, keep him happy. Keep feeding the big guy is what we used to call it. Just keep feeding them. And then, you know what? The way he plays, you're going to have a lot of 2-on-1s, odd man rushes against you. Just be able to break up some of those and you're on your way. I mean, Buff got a lot of guys started. Josh Morrissey was another one. Like when he first came in, he played with Buff and it was the same thing. You just slide that puck over to him. He'll make something happen with it. And you just do your thing defensively. So, an incredible talent, honestly. I don't know that we'll see another guy like that, 260 pounds, can get mean and can score goals and play as kind of your all-around player.
He was one of a kind, man. That's for sure. I know we've talked about him a bunch, but I always love to ask guys about vets they leaned on early in their careers. And I know you've said a lot about Buff, but was there a guy, not even necessarily a defenseman, but was there a guy in the peg early in your career that you looked to, not just on the ice, off the ice, someone you leaned on for advice or whatever it was?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, a big one for me, Kevin Bieksa. He's from just outside Hamilton, but he was like a big brother for me, mentor, learned a lot from him. We skated together in the summers, trained. He was huge for me. He was like the first NHL player I ever really came in contact with, just learned a lot from him. In Winnipeg, Mark Stewart, coaching now with the Oilers, the ultimate pro, ultimate teammate, do whatever it takes on the ice kind of guy. He was huge for me. And so those two guys were pretty, they were both huge for me when I was a young guy.
Stewie scored my first NHL goal. I scored on my first shift, first game against you guys in 13, something like that. But I threw a backhand on net and it ramped off Stewie's stick. And I always think about that. Yeah. It went right under Pavlik's arm. You mentioned Winnipeg or Atlanta. Sorry, I got to ask you about Atlanta. And I know you didn't play there, but you were drafted there. So you obviously went there, probably did development camps. Did you spend some time there?
Just development camps, training camps, beautiful city. Sort of like a Nashville type of feel, but like on a bigger scale. But yeah, no, it was nice. You could tell it wasn't really set up for hockey. I mean, like the practice, kind of like I'd imagine what like the practice rink would be like in Dallas, something like that. You know what I mean? But it was nice. It's unfortunate that, it didn't work out there, but if it ever did, it would be a hot spot for guys because it's gorgeous there. Yeah,
because that's all you're hearing in the media now, right? Is expansion, and I think the city keeps coming back into the play. Atlanta. Is that something that you could see? Do you think it could work there again?
I mean, it could. I mean, you see like how these like who would have ever thought Vegas would be such like
Yeah.
a hot spot for hockey, you know? It's just if you get the right the team takes off and you get the right amount of people kind of interested in it, it can take off. So I think it could. I think it could work there.
Man, let's get to some Montreal stuff because for me, I was telling my producer Darren before, kind of telling him about playing in the Bell Center and just Montreal in general, going to the city on the road and just like the history and the building. And man, I told him the story about my first time playing there, skating around when Coldplay comes on, and I was almost like tearing, man. Like I was like
Yeah.
choked up because it was one of the coolest hockey experiences I've ever had in my life. Just the atmosphere and everything. And you got to experience that, man. Like how cool is it being a Hab and just being part of that organization with so much history?
Yeah, you know what? When you're explaining it like that, like I get chills thinking about it too. Like a snowy Saturday night in like say around Christmas time and you're in the Bell Center, that's like the purest like hockey there is. You know what I mean? Everyone like Leafs Habs on a Saturday night. It's whatever we grow up watching. And it doesn't matter if it's Saturday or Tuesday. It feels like a big game, you know. The rink is going to be packed. People are going to be going nuts. It's an amazing place to be a hockey player, and I'm glad. Like when I'm done my career, looking back and being able to say I played there, it's something I'll be proud of for sure. The run we had there, the players I got to play with, and you know, Carey Price, Shea Weber, like Hall of Fame guys. It was a great time and really good years in my career. So really proud that I got to be a Hab for a while.
Tell me about this run, man. Obviously, we're in Toronto here. Tough series for Leafs fans, but what an incredible start for you guys. I kind of want to know, you go down 3-1, and I think everyone in the city here was like, you know, it's over. I think they might have a chance to creep back, but you were definitely the underdog, and at 3-1, it was like, this thing's over. Did something switch? Did something turn? Like, were you just taking it a game at a time? Walk me through that series when you're down 3-1.
Yeah, honestly, like once we got down 3-1, we had some like incredible like older guys. Like we had Corey Perry, Eric Stahl, Price and Weber, like I said. But I mean, they just said like, guys, like let's just take it one game at a time. We go back into Toronto for game 5. It goes our way, we win, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. Like momentum was on our side. We come back to Montreal, game 6, overtime again, and I think it might have been double overtime, and you could kind of see it on Toronto. Like you could just see like it was weighing on them, you know, like they know they can't close us out. And then game seven was pretty much all downhill. Like we were had all the momentum and everything was just kind of going our way. Once we got 1-2, it was like this thing's a wrap. And what a place that would have been to be after if you're a Leaf. I know the city was on fire after that one, but it was incredible. Carey Price, like that's the craziest hockey I've ever seen someone play. Like he was incredible. The team we had too was like built for playoffs. Like our defense was like massive in front of Price, and then we had some big boys up front, Josh Anderson, like gritty guys like Gallagher.
Yeah.
And our young guys, Suzuki and Caulfield, they were gamers, you know. Like, and I feel like that's once you get into playoffs, that's what it's all about, you know. Who can kind of grind it out and stick to it the longest. And those kids like Suzuki and Caulfield, they'd come through for us in the clutch all the time.
I got to ask you about Marty St. Louis. One of the guys that I watched, I literally had him on my wall growing up with the yellow sin bomb. Gets hired out of nowhere, essentially, right? He's coaching Pee Wee hockey, but you got the chance to play for him, man, and you had some really cool quotes about practices and how the practices were a lot different from anything that you had been a part of. Can you explain that and how those practices, how he structured them, how he ran them?
Yeah, well, first of all, he comes in, he's got the whole team in there to start for his first meeting. And he comes in and he goes, boys, every Pee Wee coach in North America today is excited because he just got hired coach of the Pee Wee team. But Marty was amazing. I absolutely loved playing for him. His practices, like every drill is you're playing hockey. It's not like, okay, D to D, give it to this guy, and then D to D, give it to this guy, go take a point shot. It's like, no, like we're playing 3-on-3. You can use the outside, like everything's a game. So like you get into a game and it's like you're just playing again. You know what I mean? It was amazing. It was so much fun. Gets you engaged, gets the competitive juices flowing every single day. So like you could get back at 1 a.m. from a road game, practice at say 11 or 12 the next day, and you're like fired up because you get to go out there and play a game. He wants you to try things, wants you to make a move. So like I'm pulling it through Suzuki's feet and dancing around. Like it was fun, man. We had a lot of fun. So really love playing for Marty. He's I think he'll coach for a long, long time because he gets the guy's attention right away.
He just gets it, eh? He's just one of the guys.
Oh, like video sessions. He'd be like, Gaz, like who should Benny pass it to? Like the winger or the center? And you'd be like, oh, you should pass it to the winger. And he'd be like, no, like you should pass it to the center. Like, look at, and then the room goes nuts. Like it's awesome, man. It's a riot every day, all day is fun with him.
So did it get to the point, like it sounds like even in your voice, like it sounds like you almost like you want to go to the rink to play for a guy like that every day. Like you're excited to get to the rink and go to battle for this guy every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can still see it in the way that Montreal team plays. They play hard every night and they're a young team just on their way up. So like I said, I think he'll coach for a long time and be successful.
Edmonton's going through a coach change right now. I love how I just somehow factor Edmonton into everything that I do. I cover them a lot, obviously played for them, but I get asked these questions a lot. Like how long does like the new coach's system take to implement? And like, when will we start seeing benefits of like a new coach? You were a product of that. And I know not necessarily in Florida, it was done earlier, but obviously seeing Marty come in, how long does that stuff actually take, do you think? Like, what is the answer to that? Like, you were obviously seeing that in the flesh, having someone come in, new systems, all that stuff. What are the challenges to that? And how long does something like that take to really start noticing visibly differences in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think right away there's a shock factor right away, and guys want to impress whoever's new behind the bench. So you'll get, maybe a few games of guys really on their horse, really trying to impress a new coach, gain that trust that everyone wants. As far as systems go, I mean, you can see them right away, but I mean, there's a lot of muscle memory that goes into it, as where you're supposed to be defensively, where you're supposed to be on breakouts, all that stuff. So it takes a little while, but at the end of the day, hockey's hockey. I mean, you can have all the systems you want, and there's still going to be guys that can go off on their own page. So unless a new coach comes in and really is like hammering down on accountability and where guys are supposed to be, it's not going to look a whole lot different, I don't think, for a while.
I just had Luke Shen on here last episode, and I kind of want to go down the same avenue I did with him, just because I respect the hell out of you in your game, man. From when you came in 2014 or actually 2013, you played a game, but till now, over the 10 years, the league's changed a lot. And you're a guy that's stayed pretty true to himself in terms of being hard and nasty and played against and shutting down top lines, eating heavy minutes, but also like providing a bit of offensive touch as well. I mean, how much have you evolved as a player in the 10 years you've played in the NHL?
Yeah. Honestly, probably night and day from what I was at the beginning to where I am now. At the beginning, just happy to, like I said, slide it over to Buff, play defense, stay out of trouble. And I probably did that for a good 5-6 years, just try and, I guess, keep your head above water in a way, just stay out of trouble, stay out of the coach's office, stay in the lineup. You're just trying to survive as a young guy. And then as you get older and your confidence grows and you're like, you know what, I can do a little more here and make a little bit more happen. And so I have actually wanted to do that, like go back and watch one of my games from say like 8 years ago and just be like, what is this guy? What is he doing? You know? And you probably honestly look back and understand, oh, you know what? That's probably why you were only playing 15, 16 minutes as opposed to playing what you play now. So night and day from day one to now.
In terms of night and day, what specifically kind of skill stuff? I know you worked with skills coach outside the game and in the summer, but what do you need? What do you mean by that? What's improved?
Just more aggressive, like you mentioned, getting up the ice offensively, getting more like gapped up defensively, which is a huge part of playing defense. That when I first started, I didn't even really know what it was. You'd hear coaches say, "Oh yeah, gap up," but I didn't really understand what they were talking about for a long time. Stick, how to use your stick defensively. Those are the biggest things, and things that just you see veteran guys, especially like 10 years ago, used to see defensemen that maybe couldn't get around the best, but like they'd have a good stick and they'd have a good gap and they could survive doing that, playing till they're almost 40 years old just because they know how to do that, know where to be. Like Nick Lidstrom, not the fastest guy in the world, but was amazing just because he knew where to be, knew and had a great stick, so smart. Things like that. Those are things that I guess you just mature and learn different ways to play the game as you get older.
So you mentioned this in your answer, but a guy that's just trying to stay in the lineup, and that was me too, man, where I just wanted to play every night. I wanted coach to be able to trust me and just play every night. But you were in and out of the lineup a lot. You went from that to, I was just saying this to Darren before we got on here. Like, you were probably the most coveted defenseman when you got traded to Florida. Like that was trade, eligible. What advice would you give for any kind of defenseman like that, or guys that are in and out of the lineup, just in terms of mentality and like staying in it, staying in it mentally?
Yeah, I would say just like stay true to what you are, if you're a defensive guy, be the best defensive guy. If you're a big physical guy, be the most physical guy. Like, there was one year where I actually was scratched 20 games in a row to start the season. And then I was like, just once I got in, I was like, listen, I've got to either take a step here or I'm going to be done, or I'm going to be somewhere else. And so like for the next 20 games, I just tried to run over every single guy that got in the way, got in my way. Whoever had the puck, I would just try and steamroll them. And then, you know what? It's as funny as it sounds, confidence grew from there, just running guys over. Then you're in the lineup every night, and then you can make a couple more plays, and then things just grow from there. So I'd say just being true to who you are, and just never kind of like taking your nose off the grindstone. Just keep working at it. You know what I mean? Perseverance, I guess, is the best word for it. Just persevere as long as you can.
It's good stuff, man. Let's finish off with the Wings here. I love watching and covering your team. You score a ton of goals, score in bunches. What's the outlook on the Wings here? Obviously, you guys want to make that next step. A little playoff hockey this year in Hockey Town. Talk to me about the Wings.
Yeah, I mean, we came out hot right out of the gate, scoring a bunch of goals. Cooled off a little bit of late, little blip, but I think we're still just kind of finding out like what we are. We're a skilled team for sure, but we want to be a strong defensive team. I think that's going to be how we get in. I wouldn't say we have the same skills, say, as Toronto or Boston, even, and some of these high flying teams that have been up there for a long time. I think we're still kind of finding ourselves, but still early. And I think we're still figuring out where we're at.
How important is the mental game for players, and where did that develop for you?
Yeah, I think it can be everything for a player. I mean, what separates guys who, play 10 years and guys who play 1 year, a lot of it's just having a little bit of mental fortitude, a little bit of strength, perseverance. And I think it's kind of developed as a kid, honestly. Like, I mean, you build your confidence as you grow older, and certainly there's different stages of it. And mine kind of peaked when I was, in Winnipeg, getting in the lineup every night. Then you go to Montreal and find a new level. I mean, I think there's stages to it, and you kind of take those steps, but confidence is everything for a player. I think anyone will tell you that. You can like it's night and day, honestly. Like when you get the puck and you have confidence, you feel like you can do anything with it. Versus when you don't have any confidence, it's like the puck feels like a marble on your stick, you know? So
That's what it
I
felt
know
like
that
a
you
lot of
know
time
don't
for
know
me,
anything
buddy.
about yeah, I know you don't know anything about that, but it's yeah, it's hard to describe unless you've been there and you have the puck and you feel like I can make any play here versus you get the puck and you have no confidence and it's like get this thing away from me, you know?
Well, man, that's it from my end.
Did you ever break your hands?
I broke my metacarpal here twice. I don't know if you remember
Same one.
Dan Maggio. I punched him in the
Oh,
side of the head so hard that I broke my hand on him. But yeah, you too?
yeah. I've done both. And part of the reason why like fighting's kind of gone in and out for me is I've broken both my hands and like big bones. Like I broke like the first
Ooh,
two here, my rookie year on Dan Winnick's helmet. And then I broke this one, like same thing, boxer fracture.
yeah.
That was on JT Miller in Vancouver, which
I
was
just watched
that was
that fight.
so like I come through and like bang right off his helmet and I knew right away. I was like my hands like just exploded. But there was such a random fight too. I'm like he asked me, which was I thought was weird. And it was like COVID, no people in the stands. So like we square up and like you just hear the sticks hitting the ice and
Man, I
dead
know I asked
silent
you
out
about
there.
the playing, but dead silence during a fight is bizarre. You could just like hear the punches.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like honestly, like remember like OHL like junior like training camp fights like that where you just hear like the fucking helmets pop and yeah. So I don't know what it is, man. My hands are like weak bones in my hands or something, but they just break all the time.
Shout out to Mike Latta. Thank you for helping us out with this. But man, good luck the rest of the way. Keep killing it. I'm glad I don't have to play against you anymore.
I appreciate it, guys, and likewise, man. I'm happy it's not guys like you rolling around out there anymore.
Okay, cheers, buddy.
Yeah, cheers, man.